Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take on what else? Immigration. Things continue to unravel down south of the border. Biden administration, according to Politico, child arrivals at southern border hit record number in March. More than 18,800 unaccompanied children crossed the border in March. This is why you can't open the borders. This is why you can't have this. This is why what Biden did is directly responsible. He caused this problem. He could have kept his mouth shut. He didn't have to invite people and open the border like it was a field day. Now he has this massive problem, and there are children. People are desperate to get their children in America because you could do better in America. And not just children. More than 172,000 migrants, most in 2 decades, stopped at U.S.-Mexico border in March. I know, Joe. The number of unaccompanied minors taken into custody doubled from February. Wow, so there was like 9,000 in February. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. In the middle of a supposed pandemic, we're supposed to lock down, stay at home, mask up, social distance, keep certain businesses closed, keep certain businesses under capacity while you just keep letting in people who you haven't tested. And that's just the people you caught. While you keep them in close confines where any of them that are sick are going to spread it to everybody. You're going to have, if you don't have a mass spreader event at the border, there's no place that you're going to have it. I know that my relatives live in a town where a lot of the migrant workers end up living because they come down here to pick. This is South Jersey. We have a lot of farms. And there were outbreaks of the beer virus there. Now, that may not be directly responsible. We were having outbreaks all over South Jersey, but it could be. They're not as well. Look, the people coming from Mexico and south of the border, they're not rich. They can't afford a vaccine unless the government gave it to them for free, unless they bothered to go. You know, when you're poor, you've got more important things to worry about. You're just trying to survive. Okay, so getting a vaccine, I mean, they were probably in the dark about it for weeks and weeks. They don't have a TV. They might have a phone. They might keep up with the news, but again, they're trying to survive. It's not exactly on the top of your list when you're trying to scrounge for food, when you're trying to just make it day to day. A vaccine, yeah, maybe if you got the time, or you happen to live near one of these clinics and someone calls you over and says, hey, you ought to get vaccinated. A lot of these people just don't. They're just surviving. So yes, they are probably going to be unvaccinated. I mean, they're undocumented. They're sneaking across the border. You don't know. You don't have control of the border, Biden. It's as simple as that. If you had control and you could screen everybody coming across, I mean, you had the gall to suggest that we should close the borders to Florida because they opened theirs, and yet you don't want to close the national border, at least to screen everybody. I mean, let's set aside your wacky, messed up belief system that's really only about who you're trying to please, and say, okay, you believe in open borders or whatever you believe in. You still supposedly believe in the pandemic and that everybody should be locked into their houses, and then July 4th we might get to meet in small tiny groups with our families and go outside for one day. Meanwhile, you have 172,000 people come across the border. That's just the ones you were able to count. How many more got across? We'll probably never know, because the border is not secure. It could be triple that. It could be, even if it's only 10,000 more people, those are people that you have no idea if they're sick. None. And the healthcare here is better. So if you did get sick, well, if you were close to the border, I'd walk across the border. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I want to get better care? They have to take care of you. And if you have better care in a country that's, first world, yeah, I'd cross the border, sure. At least to get care. And I wouldn't care what happened to me after. Well, I got cared. Yeah, I got deported, but I got fixed up, and then they sent me back. So what? Now I have, now I have the health to go back again. This is, you can't have it both ways. You can't say the pandemic is so bad. Everybody needs to wear a mask. Everybody needs to social distance. Everybody needs to keep their business locked down. Oh, but we can let in migrants who we're not screening. You can't have it both ways. You have to control the border to at least screen the migrants. At least. Even if you're going to let them go, at least screen them. And then you're going to have to hold them for 2 weeks until they're not testing. Right? They don't have the facilities for that. They're not doing that. They're not doing that at all. Where are the reports about, well, this is the quarantine facility where we're keeping all the beer virus patients? It's not happening. And the estimates are 10%. So you're talking about roughly 17,000 people come across the border infected. That's a lot of people to come across the border. That means mass spreader events all down south. And as they move in to communities, they're not going to get help. They're trying to hide. They're here illegally. They may not even be aware of Biden's new, laws, such as they are. And even so, you're going back to the old system. And people still could get kicked out of the country under the old system, even under Obama. That's kind of, I think, what the elites want. They want a system in which, well, if we have to kick people out, we can. But we don't want to if they vote for us, right? So it's a mess. Close the border. For what? Or open the states. Migrant smugglers using Facebook to organize illegal border crossing. Oh, wow. Look at that. I guess that's okay. I mean, if you want to talk about your political views on Facebook, that's somehow a danger. But if you want to do something that's insanely illegal and dangerous, well, who are we to stop your Facebook post, apparently? This alone ought to get Facebook slammed. Ought to get someone arrested. I mean, this is a crime. Websites are not allowed to post things that are criminal. That was part of the deal. This alone ought to get Facebook slammed. Something. They're supposed to be policing this. Instead, they're worried that, oh, did you misgender someone? Oh, no. Did you tell a bawdy joke? That could be. Did you offend somebody? Oh, my. Well, we'll certainly police that. Oh, wait. You're smuggling in people across the border, possibly children? Where's the enforcement here? Facebook wouldn't allow this if you were enforcing it. If Facebook was going to hit fines of like millions of dollars for each one of these posts that allow this, that stay up, granted, the smugglers are criminals. They're going to post anyway, and as fast as Facebook could shut them down. But, I mean, if they're up long enough to arrange a border crossing, that's kind of a long time. If it's up 24 hours, I'd say, Facebook, you got a real problem here. I mean, they managed to slam the gates shut pretty quickly on some conservative stuff. So why aren't they doing it on this? And who cares? No one. Biden doesn't care. Too busy telling us that, we're all a bunch of racists. NBC. Everything I see coming out of the headlines at NBC is woke. More woke than most of the other major networks. For some reason, it keeps ending up on Gab. I guess because most of the people on Gab are pointing it out. Oh, look how woke this is. Unaccompanied teen reunites with her mother after being hospitalized with beer virus. There are thousands of mothers looking for their children and no one tells them anything, and sometimes it's a lack of communication. Well, I guess. So, you guys, I guess, came across the border? Well, that's a pretty nice purse. And you're wearing what looks like is it a soccer jersey with a T-Mobile logo and an Adidas logo? I think that's kind of high-end, too. I mean, it's not poor. To me, like, poor would be wearing a T-shirt from a cigarette company. So, would you guys be separated if you were in your home country? I don't think you would. And this is NBC News trying to go, oh, look how terrible. We're so terrible because the people who snuck into our country couldn't get here together. It doesn't make any sense. Cindy left, an unaccompanied teen from Honduras left and reunited with her mother. Why did you separate? I mean, it doesn't seem like a good thing to do if you didn't want to separate. Why don't you stay in Honduras? Or some other place south of the border? Or why don't you just come here legally if you have a legal claim of asylum? If Honduras is that bad. San Diego. Cindy had not seen her mother in a decade. Last month, she took the chance and journeyed from Honduras until she reached the U.S. border from Mexico to took a chance to reunite with her mother who lives in New York. Okay. And so she got beer virus on the way and was stuck in California being sick. And it's bad because communication is bad. They're both here illegally. You've put them on the news. I mean, I just don't get this. Pete Buttigieg. Racism is physically built into American infrastructure. These are the people in charge. Buttigieg, I thought you were a reasonable guy, but when I see headlines like this, I go, oh, God. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg declared there's racism physically built in the U.S. infrastructure during a Tuesday interview addressing President Joe Biden's $2.25 trillion infrastructure proposal. Well, isn't that partly Joe Biden's fault then, since he's been in government for 47 years? Isn't he part of the problem? Why did you people support him if it's so racist? He's been in government 47 years. He was the vice president. He was a long-standing senator. Oh, but he's going to fix it. Okay. Speaking to the Grio, I don't know what that is, Buttigieg argued that some highways and bridges across several cities were designed to divide communities by race. It's just the most woke-tarded statement ever. Why do they build a road in certain areas? Now, some of this was supposedly, it split communities. Okay. So, we can't split the communities. If we have two different communities, we can't put the road in between them. Where's the road go? Oh, we have to tear them all down. And what? And what? You people are a joke. You people have been tearing down communities for decades because they're just poor communities. Where else are you going to put the road? They don't tear down rich communities. Rich communities will get their lawyers and you won't be able to tear them down. So I guess we're now going to, I don't know, go after middle income communities and ruin them. put a highway right through and just destroy that community, but leave the poor community alone, and thereby creating more poor communities. I guess. What is this BS? Makes no sense. Well, if you're in Washington, I'm told that the history of the highway is one that was built on the expense of communities of color in the D.C. area. What are you talking about? D.C.'s been an S-hole for decades, and no one's done a damn thing about it. It is controlled by Democrats, mostly Democrats of color, who have done nothing. The mayor of D.C. used to be a crack addict smoker who got reelected, Marion Barry. He did nothing. He didn't save the city. It's because Democrats keep putting forth the same failed policies as these are. So you're complaining about the inequities that you created, that your party helped create, but you're going to solve them. Oh, this structural. Oh, see, it's structural racism this time. This time. What was it last time? What was it last time? What was the excuse last time why people in the city's capital are desperately poor? What was the excuse then? Was it the Republicans? There are stories, and I think Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and in New York, Robert Moses now famously saw through the construction of a lot of highways. There is racism physically built in some of our highways, and that's why the jobs plan has specifically committed to reconnect some of the communities that were divided by these dollars. What are you talking about? You out of your mind? The Vine Street Expressway didn't split anything. It split nothing. Vine Street existed and was a thoroughfare before they built the expressway, which is basically underneath it. And what are you going to tear that down because it splits Chinatown from whatever, the neighborhood is on the other side of it? I mean, people can walk across the road. There are red lights. I mean, no one's stopping the communities just because there's a road. There are pathways. That's not the issue at all in Philadelphia. The issue in Philadelphia is they can't fund their schools. The issue with all these major cities is they spend too much money on things that don't work because there's too much corruption, graft, and they don't spend money in a way that works. They just spend too much money. You can't spend your way out of debt. And if you spend $1 billion to get back $10 million, you didn't succeed. You can't just keep giving away money. There is a breaking point. You're killing all these cities. Right now, what cities need are security. Because crime is going up, 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 up. Up, 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 up again. Because you idiots. You encouraged it. And you will reap the win, Democrats. God willing. And finally, here's the result. Marjorie Taylor Greene's campaign rakes in over $3.2 million in the first quarter as freshman congresswoman, nearly 5 times more than the $728,000 AOC raised in her first 3 months in office. Yeah, I wonder why. You've got Democrats calling highways racist, and you've got a border situation that at first they wouldn't even, that they caused, then wouldn't acknowledge, and now are actually proposing, oh, maybe we'll build the wall, or fill in the gaps in the wall, maybe. I mean, we're only 4 months in, and already the Biden administration is the most woke-tarded administration in history. That is still not the most murderous. That still goes to Bush. Bush is still worse. Bush killed a lot more people. But, unfortunately, the presidency is young. quote unquote. And if they keep doing more woke-tarded moves like this, who knows what's going to happen? These people are idiots, or they just don't care, or they're just grifting, I guess. I mean, seriously, they're going to tear down highways because they're considered racist. Tear them down. For what? More social engineering that has never worked. The Democrats are more out of touch than they've ever been in history. You know, when I was a kid, the Democrats were at least kind of in touch. I'll give them that. Back in the 70s and 80s, they were more working class. They'd at least talk to the working class. So, you know, they at least had some sense. And some of the people in the party were actually blue-collar people who had become politicians. Now that's just not the case. This is completely tone deaf. It's completely tone deaf. No one wants this. What they want are jobs. Democrats just printing money to create jobs that we don't even need is not the answer. The answer is to lower taxes so businesses can thrive, so there's more work, and then there's more money. But Democrats don't want to do that because they don't control that. This they control. This they not only control, they can tout as, oh, we did these great things and we spent so much money, and then they could spread the money out and help their donors, help themselves. That's the grift. So the Democrats are just one big grift at this point. I don't know why anybody would vote for them. I certainly am cured of ever voting for them again. All right, let's move on to the next video. Same conclusion every time. Democrats blow.